Hi there. If you're a Nikon Z crop sensor body user, or if you're planning to buy a Nikon Z crop sensor or an APS-C body like the Z50 or the ZFC, you must have heard that there are not enough lenses for the crop bodies from Nikon, and therefore it's impractical to buy into those bodies. Now, today I'm going to tell you why that's wrong and what kind of choices you have in front of you. So, firstly, you have to understand that there are two types of body in the Nikon crop sensor Z mount lineup. You have two bodies. First, there is a Z50. Now, Z50 is the first crop sensor Z mount body. It follows a traditional professional styled sort of body design. For the F mount or the DSLR mount for Nikon, you had the D3300 or the D5600, D5500. Those are entry level bodies. They have a nice grip and they look like DSLRs. Now, if you paid a little more, you could buy the D7200 or the 7500 later on. In 2014, I believe, or in 2016, Nikon also released a D500, which is a far more professional grade body for fast paced shooters like sports shooters or wildlife photographers. So I expect a similar sort of, I expect that tradition to be kept alive, and I'm sure Nikon is going to follow the Z9, the recently launched flagship Z9. I expect Nikon to follow that up with some sort of a far more advanced crop sensor body. So the reason I'm telling you this is to tell you that these sort of bodies have a certain purpose in the Nikon camera lineup. They are meant to be used with the Nikon full frame lenses. So whoever uses the D500 or the D7500, they would have used a 200 to 500 full frame f 5.6 lens. They would have used a 70 to 200 full frame lens. They will use all sorts of full frame lenses on those bodies. Similarly, if you look at the Z50, it's designed to hold a larger and more professional lens, like for example the Z mount 70 to 200 or the 50 1.2, which will act almost like a 75 1.8, or even the upcoming 85 1.2, which will act like a 130 1.8, or the 100 to 400 lens that Nikon just launched for the Z mount, which will act like a 150 to 600 lens, right? So the reason people want a body like the Z50 style body, is so that they can use their expensive full frame lenses on that body and get extra reach. Instead of having to buy another lens which is longer, they could just buy a body that sort of crops in and gives you enough resolution, enough speed, and great body design and build quality, so that you can take such bodies out in difficult situations, right? So Z50 is a body like that, and I understand that the autofocus system needs to improve further for and it has to match with the modern Sonys and Canons, and even it has to match with the Z9 autofocus system, so that you're far more confident shooting birds in flight and all that. But there's a purpose to the Z50 styled body. It has to hold longer lenses. It has to hold bigger full frame lenses. And therefore, when you look at the Z50 and complain you don't have enough crop sensor lenses, it's not a valid argument, because you have the bodies designed to hold those larger full frame lenses. And for that, you have the entire lineup, not only the Z mount lenses, full frame lenses, but also the F mount lenses that can be adapted via the FTZ adapters, the FTZ1 and the FTZ2 adapters. Now, if you look at the ZFC, that's a different story. You can definitely add a grip to that ZFC body and use longer lenses, heavier lenses, but it's not going to be comfortable. It's not built for that sort of use. The ZFC is better used with smaller compact lenses, and that's exactly why when you buy the ZFC, you get a kit that comes with the 28mm f2.8, which is a full frame lens. Now, why would Nikon pair the ZFC with a full frame lens? Because Nikon is telling you to look at those compact full frame lenses as lenses for the crop sensor line. Now, if you look at it, today you have quite a few bodies that go nicely with the ZFC style body. You have the kit lens, the 16 to 55, 16 to 50 kit lens, and then you have the 28mm f 2.8. Nikon also have the 40mm f2, which is a full frame lens again, but that becomes a sort of a 60mm lens, and it's a really good lens to light. I think 170 grams in weight. It's a beautiful lens to be used for use on the ZFC. And but not only that, Nikon is not stopping there. They have also announced a 26mm full frame lens that's going to be a pancake lens, and it's going to be almost like a 40mm equivalent, and it's going to be, in my view, a very useful lens. Like you have the Fuji 27mm f2.8, a pancake lens. It's sort of like that. I think it's sort of going to be like that. It's going to be a very flat kind of a lens. It's going to have, I think, f2.8 as f value, and it's going to be bright enough, not too bright but bright enough, and it's going to be a full frame lens. And not only that, there's also a DX, a crop sensor 24mm lens planned, again a 36mm equivalent. So you see, between 30mm, 35mm to 85mm, there are quite a few lenses available already for the ZFC, especially if you take into account what Viltrox is producing for the Z mount. Viltrox has a 23mm f1.4, a 33mm f1.4, and a 56mm f1.4. These are all fast primes, giving you the standard prime focal lens, 35mm full frame terms, 50mm full frame equivalent, and 85mm full frame equivalent. These are important lenses. When you add them up, you have quite a few lenses to sort of go with. Now, you don't have to necessarily use a long lens. If you want to use a long lens on a crop sensor body, you should go for the Z50, and then you have all the big lenses that you can use. Of course, you have the 50 to 250, which is a DX lens, a crop sensor lens. You have the 18 to 140, that's a crop sensor lens again. These are zooms. Nikon has planned to launch a 12 to 28mm as well, which is going to be, give you the benefit of a wide angle zoom, essentially an 18 to 40mm zoom. I suppose it's going to be a 2.8 to f4. Now, if you look at it, and you're expecting like 3 more lenses to be launched by Nikon, but currently, if you look at it, you have everything between 35mm going up to right up to 375mm. Because if you look at the 50 to 250, at the longer end, you get almost 375 millimeter focal length. You get that huge telephoto range. And of course, you can use the 70 to 200, right? If you have that. Of course, you can use the 100 to 400 if you can buy that. If you can afford that. I'm not expecting you to afford that, because there's a reason why you're buying a Z50. You probably want a cheap, affordable, not cheap, affordable, but great quality photo camera too. And why only a photo camera? It's a nice video camera as well. Now, I just wanted to tell you that this whole idea that there is not enough lenses for the Z mount is a myth. There is enough. Fundamentally, you need to open your mind up to the full frame compact lenses, which are a great fit for both the Z50 and the ZFC. And the reason I made this video is because I have been hearing this conversation for quite a long time now. I recently saw the DP review of the ZFC, and they kept talking about how beautiful the camera is, but then apparently you don't have lenses to go with the ZFC. Look, the immediate comparison is drawn with the Fuji lineup. The Fuji X mount has been here for about 10 years. The Z mount is only 3 years young, right? 3.5 years young. So of course, there's a certain journey to be traveled for the Z mount. But what they have been able to do in the last 3.5 years, I think is remarkable, because they had the good sense to launch something like a 28mm or the 40mm or 26mm, all full frame lenses, but make them such that they can be used with the crop sensor bodies. And that is exactly why they did launch the 28mm f2.8 with the ZFC, which is a crop sensor body. So if you are planning to buy these two cameras, or if you're maybe planning to, if you already own this camera, if you're planning to gift it to someone, and someone is interested in taking photography or videography seriously, don't worry, because you are getting into a system that is extremely future proof and has already started giving you a lot of options. By the way, if you think that this is a good conversation, then please like this video and subscribe. That's going to really help me. That's going to really help this channel grow bigger and help this content reach more people like you. Thanks a lot for that. So that's about it, and see you very soon with another video.